So, and I'll probably put up a slide or two in just a second, but let's see. First of all, I'll just share my apologies. We had a couple of different changes in speaker and time and some other things. So it'll probably be a pretty small group here today, but really excited about the content and the various different programs that that LANL, the Los Alamos National Lab, has for helping entrepreneurs, particularly the New Mexico Small Business Assistance Program. So we're going to get to know Julia a little bit and get into the program in just a second. Since I feel obligated, since the slides exist, I like to share them occasionally. So I'll put this up here for a second. All right. And I think, let's see, whoops. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we went live on Facebook. I'm going to try and do that again. But, oh, wait a second. That's not, I missed part of the change here. So, oh, I'm going to have to fix that in post. So we're not talking about outdoor opportunities. We're talking about the NMSBA and other programs. So what I'd like to do, I'm just going to try and make sure that Facebook is working. If it isn't, I'll let it go. It looks like Facebook may not be our friend today. Well, with that, I'm going to just go with the other, go with the Zoom, go with the basics. So we're joined here today with by Julia Wise, who is, well, first what we want to do, what we like to do, and part of the purpose of this program for OED in line with the City of Santa Fe's Office of Economic Development is, first of all, to share different resources, different programs that are available to help entrepreneurs and business owners, other folks who are in business support arena. Also to get to know the people who are involved. Oftentimes things seem a little mysterious if we don't know the people involved, and we find it, let's see, sometimes difficult to, I don't know, sometimes take the first step. So one of the things that we wanted to do or want to do with this program is to make those programs, make these other programs more accessible. So I've got a couple of fairly basic questions for Julia to join us here today. So Julia, can you tell us maybe just a little bit about yourself and your background, and I'll get into maybe some more recent career things in a minute or so, but I'm curious, like, are you from New Mexico? Did you move to New Mexico? What was it that brought you here in the first place?
I was actually currently living about a block from the house I grew up in.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know, I was really fortunate to be provided the opportunity to grow up here, experience our summers, all these awesome, I'm having intense nostalgia now as I'm bringing my kids, as I have children, and they're getting to do a lot of the same things I did growing up. So going to see Joe Hayes, all these wonderful things. I was provided the opportunity to go out of state for college as well as graduate school. After graduate school, I was looking for something that wasn't academia. My PhD is in geology. And I, towards the end of it, figured that I didn't want to become a professor, but did really want to figure out how to bring all the oomph of science and all the resources it brings to see what we could do that's good with it, right? And so I was provided the opportunity to actually return home and work for the state for a couple of years as the director of the Office of Science and Technology at the state's Economic Development Department. And then from there, I moved to the New Mexico Manufacturing Extension Partnership, which is an amazing resource that we will get to later in this conversation. And then from there, I moved to Los Alamos National Lab, where I work on the technology engagement and entrepreneurship team, and doing some really interesting project development, and program work. So that's sort of my whole thing, is born here, raised here, did a full circle along the way, picked up a husband and a couple of children, they're mine, and I'm getting to experience New Mexico and Santa Fe with fresh eyes.
So as an entrepreneur, you're gathering resources, you're gathering children, husbands, all sorts of good stuff. That's amazing.
Some of those longer term investments, they need a longer runway, but I think I'm feeling really confident about them.
Well, it feels like you're doing well. And let's see, so one thing I think I first maybe became aware of you, or somehow previous role, maybe a couple of different previous roles for me, when you were working at the Office of Science and Technology for the state. I'm curious, before that, had you had much, say, engagement with entrepreneurs and business and growing that, or was it more, I'm curious, like, how did that shift? Because I think for some of us in economic development, maybe it's a long-term thing. Sometimes it's something we came late to.
No, I did not. When I got that job, I was teaching geology at Northern Kentucky University, go north, and living in Cincinnati, finishing up my dissertation. And so what I did end up doing, though, was working at and interning at Rainforest Innovations, which is the technology transfer and transition office at University of New Mexico. And so that was my first introduction to technology transition. I just didn't even know that it.
And I'll let you know that the audio is jumping in and out just a tiny bit there. And I know, I think you did it in a way where it should be more stable. But this is the joy of different technology platforms. That's right. So I'm not sure if I was aware that you were at UNM Rainforest, which is, I guess, Rainforest Innovations now. Let's see. But yeah, certainly became aware when you were working at the state with the Office of Science and Technology. I'm curious, in that role, are there maybe a couple of things that you learned about our maybe business support ecosystem that you've taken forward into your work with MEP and now with Los Alamos National Laboratory? Let's see, and that is not, I'm not hearing right now. Sorry.
All right, I was disconnected. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yes.
All right, yes, excellent. So I was disconnected there, so I caught the last part of that question. But
sure.
Before I worked for Rainforest Innovations, I really thought research ended in the lab, and was pretty clueless on how it made the often risky but critical jump to industry and community.
Mm-hmm. So you've seen how the sausage is made, and at least a couple different aspects of it. So let's get into the main program we wanted to talk about. And I guess there can't be, several unique kind of things. I don't know. I play with the word unique because, as sometimes a marketer, we like to claim that everything's unique, and that's not entirely true. But the New Mexico Small Business Assistance Program with the labs does appear, or maybe at the very beginning it was unique in terms of offering those kinds of services and those kinds of maybe assets to our business community. I'm wondering if you can go, maybe just kind of the basic information about NMSBA, and then we'll get into a little bit more about how businesses and folks can get involved.
Yeah, so it still is unique. And at its core, NMSBA is something that is only available to businesses in New Mexico, and specifically small businesses at that. So, and what it is it's the ability for businesses to receive technical assistance, work with the laboratories to solve the challenges that they're facing. And you'll notice I say laboratory. So while I work at Los Alamos National Laboratory, NMSBA, the New Mexico Small Business Assistance Program, is a partnership between Los Alamos Laboratory and Sandia National Laboratory. So through this program, any small business within the state of New Mexico is eligible at no cost to the business for free technical assistance from the laboratories, as well as our partners, which in this case are the University of New Mexico, both their School of Business and their School of Engineering, New Mexico Tech University, New Mexico State University, and the New Mexico Manufacturing Extension Partnership.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of the unique things about this program is, as I've mentioned before, it's no cost to the small business. It's non-competitive. So if you have a challenge and we can help you, we will. The laboratories aren't able to provide cash or goods to the business, and they can't do things that are available on the private sector. So unfortunately, we cannot do website development, some of those other things. And one other thing that I do want to drive home is sometimes when you get a lot of national laboratories in the room, things get technical or they get a little weird kind of fast. And you do not have to be a tech-based business to take advantage of this program. So this program is for any New Mexico small business. We've worked with bakeries, we've worked with breweries, we've worked with embroidery studios. I just really want to put, if there's a challenge you're noodling over and you just want another set of eyes or brain on it, this is a great program to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And one thing that I see, because I'm maybe startup adjacent these days, sometimes close. But one of the things that I see is early stage startups, the main thing that I see that they need is traction, is some kind of validation that they're headed down the right road, that that somebody else is saying, yes, this is a good and interesting project, and we're going to invest time and effort into it. So I've always seen when I see an early stage business, early stage startup that's pre-revenue, but one of the things they're bringing to the table is that they've worked with one of the labs or one of the other partners. That always to me says, okay, you've not necessarily that there's a lot of hoops, but you've gone through a process that helped evaluate what it is you're doing,
right.
Ensured that it was something valid. So I find a lot of value in that. And do you see that too? Do you get feedback from folks about that kind of thing?
So we do. We have businesses that are told, if you can prove this or you can evaluate this, then I will invest in your company.
Mm-hmm.
And they come to NMSBA to do that and do that proof of concept and do that evaluation. Through some of our partners, and at the end they receive VC investment. Through some of our partners, NMSU can provide food testing, so shelf life testing, all those things that you need to enter the market there. So it's a really unique opportunity, and I'm using unique, but it is a great opportunity to get things validated by a neutral third party within the national laboratory system, which holds some clout with investors. The other thing is it's a great opportunity for some of our more technology-based businesses to gather preliminary data before moving on to larger grants. So if there's a business that's interested in doing an SBIR or SBIR grant, you can do a lot of the preliminary work up front with NMSBA and gather some of that data for that phase one, everything that's needed to go into that grant application. The other thing that's pretty cool about NMSBA is if the business is seeking to pursue a federal grant, because of the way that the program is structured, we've seen businesses successfully use NMSBA as some of those matching funds and NMSBA work as some of that matching funding.
I didn't know that was eligible. That's very cool. and you were just jinx anything. Well, and you were just talking about how it didn't need to be a tech business. So I hope I didn't, skew it in the wrong direction, but I'm curious. So, because I think if you are in what I call, like, say, startup land, you're probably working with other high growth startup entrepreneurs. You're probably at least, maybe having coffee or hearing from investors. So you're in a place where they recognize the value and share information about NMSBA. But I think sometimes the word around NMSBA, one of the things we're trying to do here today is to make sure that it is a little more accessible to the variety of small businesses that may not realize that they're eligible. So I'm curious, what's the first step? If maybe they attend one of these webinars, or I know sometimes at 1 Million Cups we'll have someone join us and talk a little bit about the program. What's the next step after that? They've heard about the program. What should they do in order to, learn more?
They should reach out, and we can do this a couple of ways. So you are welcome to, Eric, you're welcome to share my email and my information. You can always reach out to me. If you know, hey, I'm ready, I really do have a problem that I think the labs can help me with, I'd really recommend just visiting our website. Am I allowed to share?
Oh, you should
screen?
be. You should be. I believe I made that eligible, but if you have trouble, let me know.
All right, so here we go. NMSBA program.org takes you to our website. And, even if you're not sure if what you're chewing on is a project, I would put in a request for assistance, because it's only one page here. We ask the business's name, your name, the address, to keep companies from Texas from sneaking in and trying to use this resource. You think I'm kidding? It happens. And you have to answer a couple of questions. The business is located in New Mexico, a small business. We do use the US SBA guidelines for this. So broadly speaking, most businesses in New Mexico are a small business. We do ask that companies file gross receipts taxes in New Mexico. You do not have to have revenue. It can be pre-revenue, but they do need to file taxes. And then here, the type of assistance needed. And I do want to say that we've formed projects with just one word, water ? So whatever your assistance needs, just put it in here. Once you confirm you're not a robot and hit submit, it will go to our program, where one of our project managers, whether it be at Sandia or Los Alamos National Lab, will reach out to you, learn more about your challenge, and determine if we can help you. So if there's an available researcher or subject matter expert to help you, we'll get the process started and start putting together what we call a scope of work, which is really how the labs or the universities are going to help you solve your challenge, address your challenge. So visit the website, put in a request for assistance, and someone will reach out to you. That said, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to talk more, talk through what you're thinking, and get you and answer any questions about the program.
All right. And I know there's a couple other programs we want to talk about. I've put something in the chat. I know we don't have that many guests here today, but if you've got questions, go ahead and and put them in the chat, and we'll raise them up. One thing that I seem to recall, and I think there was maybe a predecessor to NMSBA that worked really well, but the challenge that I remember there was that it seemed like you needed to already know somebody, behind the fence. You needed to know somebody within the lab that it's like, well, I know there's a group that can do this thing, and maybe I know this dude or something. And so the matchmaking process was not, it was not that smooth. It was not something that just anybody could do. It feels like you've solved that challenge, or at least to a degree.
Yeah. So if you 99% of the world's population, more than 99.999% of the world's population, don't have an deep insight into all the groups and organizations within the national laboratory. What happens is the NMSBA staff, so these project managers, these magical project managers I keep mentioning, reach out to different organizations and find a researcher. So that onus is taken off the business, and the responsibility is with the project manager. We do have companies, and you will have a meeting with that researcher. So it's not just this researcher is your researcher, no takebacks. You have a meeting, there's a conversation to really understand if the fit is right, if the researcher is capable of doing the work that's requested. And if it's not quite the right fit, the project manager will go back to the drawing board and keep looking. So not shoehorning anyone into a project, but rather bringing forward and through a conversation really starting to form this collaboration.
That's great. Let's see, Casey Delbor, one of my colleagues here at the Office of Economic Development, he shared a comment here in the chat. It was one of the things I wanted to get to, which is, I'm curious if, and then we'll move on in a little bit past NMSBA, but I'm curious if we might maybe talk about some of the success stories that we've seen. And I'm not sure, Casey, if you've got anything to add, or any particular success story that you've seen with the work that we do here in Santa Fe.
Hey, Julia, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being with us today. I know you've worked with Parting Stone and with, I believe, Earth Traveler as well, two companies that I work very closely with our LEDA grants. But I was just wondering if there anything in the pipeline that you're working on that you're super excited, or if you're even allowed to. Someone I should be calling beforehand to shake their hand in advance.
So to jump back, we did work with Parting Stone for a number of years. They were paired with a man in our material science division to help them work out the ceramics around their product. Earth Traveler Teardrop Trailers, we worked with them. We have a laboratory space dedicated to basically breaking things. So it's a super fun space, but they were able to work with one of the researchers there to really do stress, strain, and get those measurements on their product so that they know how it would perform in the field on the material of because it has a really unique material on the product. In terms of the pipeline, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. And one of the things is that we treat our projects that we have currently going on as proprietary. So we aren't allowed to discuss them without the business's without the business's permission. So we do have some really cool ones that we're working on. As a spoiler alert, you could learn more about one of them at the New Mexico Angels Quarterly, July 19th. We have worked in the past with a number of breweries here in New Mexico and here in Santa Fe on different methodologies of filtration and how to make a better beer. But, Sandia Lab actually worked with Meow Wolf on setting up some of their exhibits and understanding the flow through there. So that's another Santa Fe business that has been a success story from NMSBA.
You're hitting all the great plots. You're hitting all our priorities. We got outdoor rec, we got tourism, we got food and bev.
Yeah. I'm not sure what form the business is in now, but the NMSU worked with a business that, speaking of outdoor rec, had a special way to drive camelback bladders so they don't get as funky as they do. So those are some of the success stories that we've seen here. We have worked with businesses like Mercury Bio, as well as Spartina, Specifica, some of these bioscience companies that we are also seeing really emerging and going strong.
Cool, thank you. And I know we appreciate it. The businesses appreciate it. Like I say, I've seen a fair number of pitch decks that have a have that note in there, at least a little something about what some assistance that's been provided. So, and we've talked about sort of non-tech, and of course there's everything involves probably some form of science. Apparently food is made up of atoms. I don't know. It's getting a little crazy for me, but and I think energy might be involved with just about everything we do. So I actually wanted to pivot a little bit and talk a little bit about that maybe the trigger program, and I'm not sure if you're also maybe available to talk a little bit of NM Leap. Yeah, so both of those are definitely on our list, but yeah, whichever one you want to dive into.
Let's start with trigger because it's really complementary to NMSBA.
Sure.
So NMSBA, you can think of it as renting a scientist time. It's sort of a short, sharp shock to the system, solve a technical problem, move on, keep growing your business. What our trigger program, our technology readiness initiative program does is allows businesses more funds than NMSBA and the ability to develop intellectual IP, intellectual property with the laboratory, but it's a technology maturation program. So it's really for the tech-based businesses that are seeking to mature a technology that was either licensed from Los Alamos or Sandia National Laboratory or developed with them through a cooperative research and development agreement. It allows them to take it to the next level, move closer to a commercial milestone. And the way that this is done is through a type of agreement called a cooperative research and development agreement, which basically puts a researcher on, well, research and development of the technology. And so there's also the opportunity to do some more in-depth testing of the technology. So for example, Los Alamos works with a business in Albuquerque called Pajarito Powders. And they were curious how their product was performing in relation to other products on the market. And so in some fields, that's great. You can almost do those tests at home. In the fuel cell field, this is not a widely accessible resource, right? Just in parts of, you can't, I guess they could drive around for the next 100 years to see how these things stand up, but at some point, they're probably going to want to make some revenue. And so they were able to work with with the research team because Trigger provides more assistance and a more robust in-depth project to do this testing and evaluation of their product, as well as other products on the market. So I will share the screen, but it's really to mature technology.
And I know that's, go ahead.
Oh yeah, which is a hot topic. So basically, if you were to license technology out of the national labs, it comes as sort of a little nascent baby technology. A lot of work needs to be done to get it to the point of market readiness, even minimal viable prototype. And what Trigger does is it provides $150,000 of researcher time, laboratory resources to getting it closer to that point.
Yeah. And I know I'll just say, and please feel free to share screen. It's one of the traditional, I guess, challenges. We recognize we've got this wealth of talent, we've got all this research, and we've got these capabilities between the labs and the universities, but oftentimes what we're working with is really super early stage stuff that needs significant investment and time to move forward. So I like that this really addresses head on one of the key challenges we face in New Mexico.
Yeah, and so nmtrgr.org is the website. And while NMSBA is non-competitive, very low barrier to entry, our technology readiness initiative does require that you have a license, that the business has a license in good standing with Sandia or Los Alamos National Lab, or is engaged in a cooperative research and development agreement at CRADA. All that said, NMSBA and Trigger meld really well together. So we have businesses who, like Mercury Bio, who used the NMSBA program to get to know researchers within the laboratory, understand what the laboratory is capable of doing, and then used that work to craft a far bigger Trigger project, a technology readiness initiative project that they used NMSBA at no cost to them to gather the initial information, and then entered into a creative with Los Alamos, and then are doing one of these trigger projects. And so, and when I say $150,000, the business is not paying the laboratories that. That is at no cost to the business. So that is the amount of work that the researchers are doing for the business. I just want to be clear there.
And no cash. There's no cash.
No cash. And sadly, it is not investment. But again, down the line, this could be, as a business is trying to, go from angel investment to have a larger seed fund or seed round, right? This is a way of lengthening that business's runway. This is a way of basically getting that technical expertise that you may be spending some of that investment on otherwise, and getting it at no cost through one of the laboratories here in New Mexico.
Well, and we mentioned sort of, and yeah, just maybe highlighting what you said about working with NMSBA is sort of a complementary program. So there are a few doors to go through as far as identifying potential IP, potential work. Each of the labs has its own tech transfer office. But I mean, the way I look at it is, if you've got this challenge that you're working on and you're working through NMSBA, you now have sort of people, again, sort of behind the fence that are now on your side, kind of thinking about what other kinds of assets that they have available that they might be able to bring to the table. So it's like you got a friend on the inside. So, so it just does make it quite a bit easier.
And I should mention that Trigger does require review by an external committee. That committee is folks in the industry as well as representatives from the state's economic development department, all coming together to, and I say review because I do want to emphasize that everyone I've seen has been really collaborative, and it's folks making suggestions. Have you tried this resource? Have you looked at this? And ensuring that the project is very strong. It's not trying to kneecap anyone. It's not a Shark Tank situation as much as it's an evaluation and brainstorming.
Yeah, great. I think in some ways this part of this, maybe this process reminds me of the NM program, in that you're taking something that is early stage, but in that case, it's really geared more towards what I hear as deep tech, something that we know is going to take many years to move forward, but those still need help. and if you're not in I don't know, Boston or Silicon Valley or one of the handful of places across the US that has maybe the funding and some other resources that can support you over that long period of time, it feels like NM Leap offers an opportunity, not just for New Mexico companies, but for folks who are wanting to take advantage of some of those research capabilities.
Yes. So our New Mexico Leap is our New Mexico Laboratory Embedded Entrepreneurial Program. And so I'm looking for the right screen to share with you guys, finding my mouse. And so what it does is it takes companies, and this is a competitive program because it is in depth, and it takes businesses, both in-state businesses are eligible, but also it has been successful in recruiting businesses to New Mexico. And it matches those entrepreneurs, those innovators with researchers at the laboratory, provides them technical assistance, just like Trigger, and it provides them with a stipend. You're also connected as one of the participants with seed capital, mentors, and this whole program is a 2-year program. And so the Laboratory Embedded Entrepreneurial Fellows are coming to the labs with their own technology, really in bioscience, space, aerospace, energy transition, advanced materials and manufacturing, artificial intelligence and advanced computing. Those are the areas that these are focused around. So again, space systems, the clean energy transition, bioscience and biotech, AI, and advanced materials manufacturing. And so these are businesses and innovators who have something and really need to take it to the next level. They become a LEAP fellow, a laboratory embedded entrepreneurial fellow, and start that deep collaborative relationship over 2 years with the laboratory, receiving both technical assistance as well as a stipend, as well as access to the laboratory's networks, people networks. I don't know if you get to plug into the laboratory network. Let me see if I can share this screen. Okay. And so again, nmleap.com. Our next applicant cycle will be opening in the spring of 2024. So in the meantime, if you're interested in establishing those relationships, I encourage you to do a NMSBA project or explore our Technology Readiness Initiative program. But again, we've sort of talked about the different scales of assistance. NMSBA, smaller projects, technical assistance, very low barrier to entry. Moving from that assistance to true technical maturation is our Technology Readiness Initiative trigger. Longer term relationship, more funds, more resources towards maturing a technology to a commercial market. And then New Mexico LEAP, really looking at our deep tech needs within the nation and identifying companies that can help solve those problems. Working with those companies and those innovators who bring their own technology to New Mexico and worked for 2 years within Los Alamos National Laboratory and Sandia National Laboratory. Again, and one of the things is all of these start with a conversation. So please just reach out if you have questions or want to learn more. I really want to drive that one home. These are outward facing programs. I know the labs can seem complex and tough to break into, and these are great ways to make that initial step.
Well, I hesitate to ask you for a wrap up since I think you do a good job of wrapping up all the way through. I'm going to throw a slide or two up because I do have I don't know, I mean, not necessarily a curveball. I wouldn't do that to you.
Sure.
I was able to fix a slide, so I'll put that one up. And then I'll also, so basically that's your title. I think we already put your email in the chat, and let's see, URLs for each of the programs. And one of the things we'll do, since we have a small crowd here, we'll be sharing this probably on Facebook. And I know we're planning to basically create our own little YouTube channel within the city of Santa Fe to help make sure that these programs are available. One thing that I was, let's see, will this allow me to do the thing I wanted to do? Yes. There is one thing that's coming up, and I'm not sure how involved you are in it, but I think it was just like there was a tech week or something at Los Alamos that may have just wrapped up, or maybe it's all month is tech. But I know that there's a big showcase and demo day that's coming up on the 17th. Can you tell? I'm not sure how deeply involved you are, but I'm curious if there's something involved in that we should know about.
So that is organized by my coworkers. I was not the hands-on planning, but Los Alamos science all the time. And so there is a science week at Los Alamos, the Science Fest up in the community of Los Alamos. And as part of that, what Los Alamos National Lab is doing is putting together a showcase of some of our technologies that were created by some of our more entrepreneurial researchers. So we have postdocs and staff scientists who really do have that entrepreneurial mindset. And so you'll see at this workshop or at this showcase, you'll see those technologies that are really geared to move into market, whether it be through a spin-out company or they're looking to license it to a business, find that right partner. There will also be conversations about what the lab and what New Mexico is doing around clean energy transition in the space community. And then I was talking about other networks, and we've been talking about VC funding. There's a panel on VC funding in New Mexico. Folks are excited about these SSBCI funds that are coming in. And so a conversation with some of the VC firms and active within the state about where they see things going. So it's tied to Science Fest at Los Alamos, and it's really an opportunity to get a snapshot into what the lab is working on, what's available, some frankly just really cool science and tech, and then a little bit more of that venture capital business bent as well.
And you should go to Los Alamos now before Oppenheimer comes out, and then after.
Well, so if you go now and make a day of it and go to the Bradbury Science Museum, you can see a series of sort of Oppenheimer's I don't want to say artifacts, that sounds so dated, but some of the things that were left with Los Alamos that are normally within classified areas.
Oh, wow.
They
That I
have
didn't
them
know.
up on, yeah, so you can go check out the Oppenheimer exhibit at the Bradbury Science Museum and then come learn what's happening in the here and now while reflecting on all of our history.
Oh, that's amazing. I'll thank you again for joining us. I'm not sure. Do you have any like last comments? Again, I think you almost naturally wrap each of these things up really well.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity. I'm sorry I was a little rusty on all of my presentations, but it looks like Earl might be reaching out. So Earl, I look forward to chatting. And then of course, Alan, Casey, Eric, thank you. Please don't hesitate to reach out and we'll see what we can work on together.
Well, thank you again, Julia. We will put this again through a couple of our different channels. Ideally, again, YouTube sometime soon, but probably Facebook even today or tomorrow to help spread the word a little bit more about these great programs. Let's see, and I am going to let's see, try and do a thing or two here. And in order to kind of wrap this up here, I just want to thank folks who are participating either now or in the near future, or 3 years down the road, for joining us here with OED Online. Again, Casey and I, we're part of the City of Santa Fe's Office of Economic Development, and we're in the business of trying to connect entrepreneurs, to connect businesses with the various kind of resources they need in order to help Santa Fe and really the region, the wider community, with a thriving business ecosystem. So look forward to more information. Folks who participated now and are on our mailing list will be getting more, including the links that Julia mentioned and some of these other programs. We'll be getting those fairly shortly. And we look forward to seeing you again. I believe it is August 8th. We'll be hearing about the Collateral Assistance Program from New Mexico Economic Development Department. It's an exciting program. It's one of those things that's really targeting a real need in the business community for growth. So we're excited to see that coming about a month from now. And in the meantime, thanks everyone, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks.
Thank you.